Good evening, everyone. My name is Richard Bowles. I work in the PE area in Mary Immaculate College in Limerick, and the research I'm presenting is a small part of a larger PhD study that I'm conducting under the supervision of Professor Mary O'Sullivan in the University of Limerick. And this evening I'm looking at specifically the role of the coach in the delivery of physical education and school sport activities in primary school, and probably coming from the perspective of the school. I suppose by way of introduction, there's a long tradition of Gaelic games in primary school going back a long number of decades. But the tradition of school coaching is a more relative occurrence, dating back probably to the late 1980s. And to set the context, I've included two quotations from the primary PE curriculum here. The first one sets out a unique position for Gaelic games within the game strand of the curriculum, that no other sport actually has stages in the curriculum. And secondly, the quote that's come up there now looks at what the curriculum envisages to be the role of external personnel like coaches. And the important point to take would be that the coach assists rather than replaces the class teacher in the way the curriculum is phrased. So my focus then was looking at what coaches do in actual terms. How I did that, my methodologies were mainly qualitative. I used semi-structured interviews with teachers, with coaches, with policymakers, and there was some non-participant observation and also analysis of education and sports policy documents. And findings that came from that, it's very clear that in over 90% of Irish primary schools are getting some Gaelic games coaching at some stage during the year. But the fact that structures vary greatly from county to county means it's difficult to evaluate if national policy is actually being implemented at school level. Secondly, looking at the role of the coach. The coach very much has two key roles, what I found. One would be to develop Gaelic game skills, develop things like school club links, and in the aim of this conference to inspire children to play Gaelic games. But the coach also has another role in that, from the point of view of teachers, they would view time allocated to the Gaelic Games coaching programme is actually generally part of the children's PE allocation. Because what that means in effect is the coach is heavily involved in delivering significant portions of the PE curriculum. If we look at coaches' backgrounds, technology is failing us here slightly. Coaches, who are they? It ranges from full-time games development officers, people in part-time positions, third-level students, club volunteers. And the key thing across that is full-time coaches generally have had a lot of support in upskilling themselves. But the support provided for other coaches is not as comprehensive. And I'd suggest that maybe there needs to be more procedures to evaluate the quality of the support for those coaches. And the teacher's role is also unclear from practice in schools. If you look at circles 2 and 3 there, that's probably the most typical, where teachers are present, but at most are just doing some basic supervisory work. Instances where coaches and teachers are working collaboratively are few and far between. A few counties have done pilot programmes trying to develop that, but it's not very prevalent. Implications for education policy are also important, because school day is very crowded, and increasingly school communities are expecting coaches to be able to provide a service that fits with school policy around inclusion, self-evaluation, and other educational policies. So finally, what does that mean for you as coaches and for the wider GA community? And I've tried to summarise it in the form of 3 key headings that are on the screen there. First of all, in terms of sustainability, how do we know that the coach is having a long-term impact? And I'd argue that the impact is lessened if the coach and the teacher aren't working together, so that the teacher needs to have some role in the planning and implementation of any coaching program. Okay. Secondly, in terms of evaluation, and certainly the GAA has been extremely successful in rolling out a comprehensive coaching program, but we need to look at how we evaluate that to make sure that the quality is there for the school and for the GAA. And finally, one piece on the challenge of the coach himself or herself is that they are aware of the guidelines of the primary PE curriculum. So we're talking in simple terms about developing fundamental movement skills, small static gains, where we look at pupil enjoyment, participation and learning. So that all children are involved in all activities all of the time, and that coaching activities enhance rather than replace school PE. Thank you for your attention.